Hey everyone, welcome to Pleasure Principles, where we dive deep into the juiciest corners of life the pleasure, connection, resilience, and the art of living fully in every moment. I'm your host Avik, and today we are uh, talking about the journey that's equal parts soulful and sensual. So, today we are talking about resilience and thriving in a world of constant change. And we are talking about the sacred dance between staying grounded and growing stronger, embracing the chaos while staying true to yourself. And yes, even finding pleasure in the process. So, joining me today is none other than the radiant, intuitive powerhouse, Laura Hurvik. So, welcome to the show, Laura.
Oh, thank you.
Lovely, lovely. So, before we start our conversation today, I'll quickly love to introduce you to all of our listeners. Dear listeners, Laura is an internationally renowned spiritual counselor, intuitive coach, and the psychic medium. So, she is a bridge between worlds, a guide for souls looking to align with their purpose, and, dare I say, a bit of a modern day oracle. So, Laura, it's really such a pleasure to have you here today.
Oh, thank you so much. I love that modern day oracle term. I'll have to use that. I like that.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So dear listeners, get ready because today we are unpacking resilience, spirituality, and yes, even pleasure in a ways you have never imagined. So grab a cup of tea, coffee, or find a cozy spot, and let's begin. So, resilience often feels like a buzzword these days, definitely. But at its core, it's deeply personal. So, Laura, what according to you does resilience mean? I mean, how has it shown up in your life and the book?
Well, resilience to me is thriving no matter the circumstance that we're surrounded by. So resilience is a quality that comes from within and not without. Unfortunately, when things become buzzwords, people think they are coming from outside of us, but resilience actually is born from within.
Mm, exactly. Yeah, I agree. And so you have faced near-death experiences and transformative moments. So how do those experiences shape the way that you help others build resilience in their lives?
Well, I've been around for a while. I've had an eventful life. Mm, I've had everything from physical injuries to personal to losing people to going through my own various times, dark
Mm,
nights of the soul, if you like that. Um, through great loss and trauma in my life. So it comes into many, many areas. So I'm really able to connect with my clients and help them with their issues and with their problems because it's very, very different to speak to somebody who is coming from a place of kind of like book learning or academia when you're talking about problems, and it's a whole nother world to be talking to somebody who's actually walked in your shoes and who's actually experienced these things. And I think people connect to that at a much, much deeper level than somebody simply like traditional counseling or, there's always a place for that, but it's not quite the same.
exactly. Yeah. I mean, that's so powerful. I mean, it's fascinating how resilience can evolve from moments of vulnerability, um, like a butterfly emerging from its chrysalis. So, so, change can be unsettling, but uh, it's also inevitable. So, how do you guide your clients to find harmony amidst the life's chaos?
Well, there's that saying that the only thing that's constant in life is change.
Yeah.
So, actually, the sort of the beginning point that I always lead people to is the fact that acceptance, because we have to come into a feeling of acceptance that this is life. This is part of
Mm,
life. These drastic changes, these traumas, these difficult times are as much a part of life as the wonderful, loving, and inspiring parts of life. So if you come from a lens of acceptance, it's
mhm.
much, much easier to build your resistance from within because you're looking at it as simply a part of life and not something that's happening to you. You don't get into that victim consciousness.
Hmm. Okay. And so, do you think that people resist change because they are afraid of losing control, or is it just more about fearing the unknown?
I think it's both, and I think it depends on the person. We all love our little cozy comfort zones
Mm,
because we know what to expect. It's something that we've always been involved with, so we know what's coming, and we dealt with it in the past, so we know how to deal with it in the future. But the thing is, the comfort zone is very cozy, but all your growth is one step beyond your comfort zone. So if you really want to
okay.
thrive and grow and you really want to manifest your dreams and desires, you really have to step out of that comfort zone. And that's what is so frightening to a lot of people because
Mhm.
it's not only the unknown, but it's taking those first steps. And I always say to people, even if they're baby steps, just take some action because that's when the universe, God, the angels, our guides, whatever you want to label them, that's when their energy comes in and to support us. But we have to take those first steps because there is that wonderful thing. It's called free will, which they can't interfere with. So we have to at least be pointed in the right direction and take some sort of action in order for them to say, okay, that's the way he or she is headed. Let's help them out.
Wow, great. And I mean, uh, in your work, like pleasure and spirituality intersect beautifully. So, how can cultivating pleasure in the everyday life help us build the resilience? So, what do you say?
Well, we just talked about there's always all these challenges and these things that we have to deal with. So in order to live a balanced life, we
Mhm.
also need to cultivate the side of pleasure and joy and love
Mm,
to give us that balance. And that's where resilience really comes from. Because a lot of people think that resilience comes from our strength, whether it be physical, mental, or emotional. But actually, what I found throughout my life and working with all kinds of different people, our resilience actually comes from our vulnerability.
mm,
And our vulnerability is what allows us to experience things like love and joy and awe of the things that are, and be inspired because we have to be able to connect with that vulnerability in order to truly feel those feelings.
oh, and so, and what to say? Like, do you find people are hesitant to prioritize the pleasure, especially in a society that glorifies productivity over joy?
Absolutely. That's one of the biggest problems in I'll definitely say in our Western society,
Mhm.
because we have prioritized work and career and money and this whole game of, you know, uh, keeping up with the Joneses and,
Mm,
creating outward trappings of success. And unfortunately, some of the most unhappy people I know are some of the most successful people because what they've done is they've sacrificed every other aspect of their life in
mm,
order to promote this success. So, this is what I'm talking about in terms of having a balanced life. And if we
yeah.
don't have that joy and fulfillment and and that feeling of service and giving too. See, when we're on that really high-powered career, money, materialistic track, it
Mhm.
comes into an energy of taking, 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 taking all the time. And where human beings really become soulful and really become connected to who they really are is when they're in giving energy. And that's what people
Mhm.
forget. That's why giving back, volunteering, and not only for others, but one of the biggest things I always stress to people is giving to ourselves. Self-care is the most important thing that there is, because if you're not taking care of yourself, you're not gonna be any good to anyone around you. So it's of utmost importance, and especially now that we're moving into increasingly challenging times. My
Mhm.
guides always love to use the illusion of like when you're on the airplane, what do they tell you in the safety talk? They always tell you, put your oxygen mask on first and then help others that need assistance. Because if you're dead, you're not going to be able to help anyone, including yourself.
Very true. Exactly. And I mean, I think that uh, we underestimate the healing power of pleasure. It's not indulgent, it's very, very essential. Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, the purpose is such a loaded word. So, how do you help clients discover or maybe reconnect with their life's purpose, especially when they feel lost?
One of the best ways that I've found is having people connect with when they were a child. What are the things that they love to do? What really sort of gave them pleasure and joy and made them feel good? And, it felt like, 10 minutes had passed and they'd been at some activity for, 2 hours. And it's that feeling of being in the flow. And I find that because when we're young, before we get super brainwashed basically by society, by our parents, by religion, by education, by the media, by all
Mhm.
these things, we have a much better connection to who we really chose to be when we came into this particular lifetime. Because
Mhm.
whether people realize it or not, we made many, many choices and many, many agreements before we even came into this
Mhm.
particular lifetime as to what our service was going to be, our purpose was gonna be. Now, the thing is that there's a few general like, there's healer, there's teacher, there's, paradigm changer. These are all life purposes, but the thing is, people forget that you don't have to do the same thing as everybody else. Your gift to the world is taking your purpose, for example, as if you are a healer, you could be healing in many, many different ways. You can be healing in conventional ways. You could be a doctor or a healthcare provider. You could be an energy healer. You could be a body worker. Like there's so many different things. And what
Mhm.
shape that takes and how you manifest that, that is your true gift to the world. So once you
Mhm.
get an idea of the general purpose that you came in to serve, it's really about you creating that yourself in it's something that is truly yours to give to the world. So, I always laugh that the one of the examples that I always use because people get this right away is I know real estate people who are
Mhm.
healers, and everybody kind of laughs at that. Not all real estate brokers are healers,
Yeah.
but a lot of them, I've met several of them, and their healing modality is to find energetically and physically to find the perfect environment for individuals and families in which they're going to thrive and they're going to be able to fulfill their own purposes. So if that's not helping people to heal and grow, I don't know what is. So there are people out there, even in a profession like that, who are really their purpose, their life purpose. They came in to help people heal and grow.
Hmm. Okay. So, like, how do unresolved fears or maybe the suppressed emotions impact our ability to thrive and find the pleasure?
This is probably one of the biggest things that we all have. They create energetic blocks, they create emotional blocks, they create psychological blocks, and they really keep us in that fear mode. This has been really brought to the fore to me
Okay.
lately, especially with everything that's going on in the world, is the biggest thing to heal ourselves is and to keep us balanced is we have to get out of fear mode and we have to get into a mode of love. And that sounds trite, but it's not. Because when you're in fear, this is when you feel frozen. It's like deer in the headlights time. This is what keeps you from moving forward. This what keeps you trapped in your own comfort zone. This is what keeps you, it keeps you, also, it keeps you detached from your own connection to spirit when you're in that energy. So it really holds you back from everything, all the positive things that you want to do and have in your life.
Exactly. Yeah. That's lovely. Yeah. And what's the one technique that you would recommend for facing those fears head on?
Well, actually, there's two. One
Mhm.
is releasing methods. Now, there's a lot of releasing methods out there. It's really a matter of finding the one that works the best for you. Okay. About releasing these traumas, whether they be physical, mental, emotional, or spiritual. And we all have usually all of them to some degree. Okay. So doing that, doing the release work, letting that stuff go. The other is really about building that connection to spirit and your authentic self. Because in order to build that connection with spirit, whether you want to call it God, the universe, your guidance, whatever, again, it's totally talking about all the same energy, um,
Mhm.
is through meditation. I think meditation is one of the most incredible ways of not only healing yourself, but also growing and connecting with your authentic self and with your higher energies and with your guides, your angels, the universe. Because meditation hits all four pillars at the same time: physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. So I've had a ongoing spiritual meditation practice now for over 11 years. And when I say practice, I mean practice. I don't mean a couple times a week. Okay.
Okay.
It's not about length or duration. It's more about consistency because the real benefits of meditation come from consistency, which means every single day.
Hmm. Wow. And when we're talking about this, uh, resilient isn't just about bouncing back. So it's about moving forward. So what's the role of forgiveness or maybe of the self and everyone else in this process?
Well, people don't really understand what forgiveness really is. Forgiveness is not about saying what somebody else or some situation did to you is okay. It's really about you letting go of those energies because you staying in a state of unforgiveness, of anger, of heavy regret, of hatred, whatever that happens to be, that energy, the only person that's hurting is you. You're not even hurting the person that you're angry at. It's not a form of revenge. And this is what people don't understand. And the biggest thing is people are afraid that giving forgiveness to somebody else is saying whatever they did is okay. That is absolutely not true. And this is what I talked about. One of the biggest things is letting biggest parts of resilience is being able to let things go, being able to release energies on whatever level they are holding you back. And one of the big ways is forgiveness. And there's so many forms of forgiveness. There's Onopono, there's so many traditions. There's physical letter writing exercises, which I use with some of my clients. Again, you can do some of this work through meditation. There is a wonderful releasing technique that actually is old. It's been around for a long time, but I just found out about. It's called the Sedona Method, and it's very easy method, and I've been using it actually myself, and it's
Mhm.
something that you can use on a daily basis, and it's very simple and easy, and you can release things when they happen instead of having them build up. This is one of the big things about forgiveness is usually when we have large areas or people uh, that we need to forgive, these feelings have been going on oftentimes for years, if not decades, and that's when they become the energy becomes extremely toxic. And the need to release those things is even more paramount because I think of it like non forgiveness is like a corrosive acid. And it's corrosive to all parts of us, physically, mentally, spiritually, and psychologically. So it's very, very important that we practice forgiveness. I think actually, forgiveness is kind of the flip side of gratitude.
It's basically um, is a part of the section, you can say, right?
Yeah.
Hmm. Sure.
Because we can let things go. Uh, because if being grateful, a gratitude practice is amazing,
And
okay, and it can have amazing results. But if you're not letting go of the negative energies, i.e., forgiveness and the things that you have blocks from, then you could be as grateful as you want to be, but the other things are still going to be holding you back. So it's a combination of the two things.
understood. Yeah, very true. Yeah, I mean, forgiveness is so liberating. I mean, it's like cutting the anchor that has been holding your ship in the place. So,
Exactly, and as long as you have unforgiveness in terms of a person,
hmm,
you have, energetic cords tying you to that person. And, people always ask me like, why can't I get rid of this person? Why is this person still on my mind? Why, in some cases, it's so bad that this person keeps popping up in their life,
okay.
unbidden. And I just say it's because you haven't done your forgiveness work and they're literally energetically still tied to you. And it's funny because people also,
Mhm.
this is another example of energetics. Uh,
Okay.
people who were married and don't bother. Like, if you're officially married and you
Mhm.
legally married and you don't get a divorce,
Mhm.
you are still literally, even if you never see that person or never think
Yeah.
about them, you are still energetically tied to that person. And they are
Mhm.
literally, especially in the relationship area and the happiness of the relationship area, that energy is holding you back because you never completed the energy with that person because you never cut that cord.
Hmm. Very true. Yeah. And so, if someone listening today is struggling to find the joy, resilience, and the purpose in their life, so then what's the first step they should or they can take to start turning things around?
The biggest step is taking care of yourself is self-care. Because when you're caring for yourself and you're healthy and you're happy and you're finding
Mm.
joy in your life, that's when you're going to be at your best, not only for yourself, but for everyone around you. And that's when you're most resilient. Because even when you're taking care of yourself, even if there's
Mhm.
big problems or issues that come into your life, you are in a much better space, a much better energy to deal with any challenges than if you're not. Okay. And what people forget when we're under pressure, or when we're having a challenging, going through a challenging time, as we all do at some point, self-care, a lot of people drop their self-care because they're under stress, and a lot of times they've got things hitting them from all angles. And I always tell people that is the worst possible time to not be keeping up your self-care routine, because that's when you need it the most.
Hmm, that is the most, required time when they need self care. Yeah. Also, like, how do you personally stay resilient and joyful in your own life, if you can share?
Through my self-care practices, I make sure that I get exercise. I love being in nature. I have a yoga practice. I have my meditation practice. I make sure that I make time to be with people who I care about, who people who lift me up. So you want that social interaction. And the opposite is true. I try to keep myself away from and out of situations that drag me down. And like with people, everybody has felt this, been with somebody and spent a couple of hours with them and come away feeling like totally dragged out, like somebody sucked every bit of energy out of your body. Sometimes you even feel like you got to take a shower. It's like they spread dirt all over you, in a very negative way. Those kinds of people you don't want to be around, because I heard of a saying the other day that you are the energy of the 5 people that you spend the most time with, something along that line, which I thought, wow, is that ever true? So you want to be with people who uplift you and make you bring out the best in you. And of course, you want to reciprocate that for them. And you want to take care of yourself so that you can be reciprocating that. Because if you don't take care of yourself, all of a sudden you become one of those people that drags others down.
Understood. Understood. Great. So I think that's such a comfortable reminder that no matter where we are, there's always a first step to take. So Laura, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and light with us today. And uh, this has been such an inspiring and enlightening conversation. And for the listeners, I'd love to mention, like, resilience is not just about surviving, but it's about thriving and embracing the messiness of life and finding the beauty in every moment. So, if today's episode has resonated with all of you, take a moment to reflect. What's the one small step that you can take to bring more joy, resilience, and the purpose into your life right now? So, uh, until next time, keep living, keep loving, and always prioritize pleasure. So, this is your host Avik signing off from Pleasure Principles. Stay inspired and stay empowered. So, thank you so much.